Hello, today we're doing something new. I introduce you to the website and the backend infrastructure. We already briefly saw the website in the episode on legal compliance, and the backend we saw when we were retrieving pictures, but no details. And today I'll show you how I've done it. Okay, the website is not that important, but we do need it. Yes, we need it to promote the product, but that comes much later. But I want to implement some advanced authentication features for the changing password and confirming your email, etc. Things we skipped in episode 1. There will be a later episode about that. But before we can do that, we need some website infrastructure. So we dive into that today. I built a simple website using Vue. I like Vue because of its simplicity and its component-based infrastructure. And also the new Vue client makes it really easy for you to get started with the website. It's built based on Webpack and it does all the configuration for you, so you can get started very quickly. In the past I've worked on sites using Webpack and we had really complicated configurations to get that running. And yes, if you have some complex stuff to do, that's the way to go. But for this, it's a simple website, the Vue client is perfect. Just run it and you're ready to go. So let's go and have a look. Here we're in Visual Studio Code and we see the website project. It's a very simple Vue client project. Starts with the website with a public folder with our index HTML that is plain out of the box. I only added some analytics here. Then we have a source folder, but more importantly we have our main.js starting point of the app, what creates the Vue instance, what does a little bit of cookie things, but that is just extra. To make it work, I had to only make a few adjustments in the settings, in the configuration of from the Vue client, and that was how to build a global CSS file. So that's what is shown here. This is just the output there so that I can publish the result of building the website to the app engine that will then host it when it is running in production. But we don't need that for development. Now for development we can just simply run our server because it runs on a development server, it will build it, and then we can quickly go to our browser and we can actually run the app here. Now, as you see, it isn't doing much. It's just showing a nice picture I took on one of my trips, and it shows a little bit of the story of Going Walkabout. It offers a subscribe, and what you saw in an earlier episode, it links to the privacy statement. Now, both this privacy statement as this story of Going Walkabout are of course Vue components, and both of them get their data, as I explained in the legal compliance episode, from Storyblock. So let's go into the component, for instance, for the privacy. It doesn't even have its own component. It has a page in my views, privacy, and as you see it uses the Storyblock markdown component, and the Storyblock markdown component will then do, using the Storyblock client, get the correct document, and that will then be displayed here as HTML text. The same I did for the Going Walkabout thing. I do a little bit with locales because I'm experimenting on making it all multi-language. It will just render the images, and it will get from Storyblock the videos that I have published. So this way I don't need to change the website. I can just create a new entry in Storyblock in my headless CMS, and it gets presented on this website. And this shows you how simple it is to get started with the website. Just run the Vue client, create your basic infrastructure, and you're ready to go. Now you've seen the website. It's still very basic, but it's a good foundation to build on further. Let's move on to the backend. The backend is actually quite a complicated choice because we already used Firestore, what is a backend database, but we can get to that using our client-side APIs. We also introduced already Firebase functions that do some kind of backend functionality, but I still need a backend. In the future, when the application grows, there will be much more processing and tasks that need to be done on the backend. Now the great thing is that when you start a Firebase project, you already get an App Engine backend. So that App Engine backend we're going to use. Within App Engine, and I have a lot of experience with App Engine, you can create multiple services and you can really make that scalable and as advanced as you want to do that. Now let's have a look what I did so far. What is really simple, but it gives you an idea what can be done. Okay, now we're at the backend. Here on the left hand side you can see we have an App Engine folder, and within that we have a default. Now App Engine allows you to create multiple services, but we only have a default service for now, and that's what we're dealing with. We can run this also the same way as we can run the website with npm run serve. We create a little script and this will actually run the website, and so we can, or actually this will run the backend, so we can see the result of that. Now this backend does two things. It serves the static files for the website, so we can have a look at that first. If we go here and we refresh the page, you see it's loading the same website as we had before, but now it's not loaded from the development server that is supplied with Vue, but it's actually served from this local instance of the App Engine Node application that we have. So we have the default instance, and on that default instance I created a simple Node application that serves some static files, serves the static files of the website, and it will allow you to anything that's not static to intercept that and run that from a Node application, what is the app.js. Now the app.js uses some various routers. Now let's go into the API router, and that API router will actually has some middleware so that it will only allow authenticated users. And that means that on our mobile client we need to set the authentication token or the user token on the header of any request we do. Here we split that bearer token. We use the admin toolkit of Firebase to verify the token, and if it is a valid token we decode it and then we set that on the request and we move on. And now in every router request we can check for that authentication token. And inside the token we for instance have the user ID, and in a later stage we might even add some extra payload there to make it easy to verify that. But at least what we have achieved now, that if there's no token or if the token cannot be verified, we send a forbidden status. So the first step of protecting our API is done. Now the next step is that based on a single URL or a single request, we need to do additional checks that you for instance can only delete your own created post, etc. But the basic is there. Now if I go into that controller a little bit deeper, for instance the media, that is what you have seen in action, where we retrieve images. We just get into the get image, we get that from our cloud storage, and the cloud storage of Firebase is shared with the cloud storage of App Engine, so it is really easy to get that done. We get it out of the bucket and we stream that to the client. And of course now within this code we could do additional checks whether you have permission on that specific particular item that is not being implemented yet here. And that is our App Engine backend. It is used for serving static files for the website and dealing with the mobile client API request. Those API requests are protected for authenticated users only, and this is the basic infrastructure for continuing working on a more complete backend infrastructure. Now to make it all work and to make sure that the API is actually protected, we need to go and send that token from the mobile client. And I will show you quickly how I've done that as well. I've switched to Xcode, and I'll show you here I made an API class that for now has a base URL to my local host because I haven't published anything to the real cloud yet, but that has a request method. And what it does is it gets the current user from Firebase authentication. From that current user it gets the token. When the token is complete, this all goes asynchronously. I check if there's an error. If not, I set the token on the header and I get a request from the Alamo Fire Session Manager. And that request is returned for further use in the application. Now to show you a little bit of an example how that is used in that particular situation. Here, if we want to delete a trip, we want to send a request to the backend. We use the API class. We do a request with the method delete, the URL we want to send. When it completes, we get the request and we can use the normal Alamo Fire infrastructure. This way it's really easy to make an API request that always passes the user token onto the API. And that is all that needed to be done. And that was the backend. Also very simple, but also a good foundation to build on further. We saw how we can authenticate the API, or better, only authenticated users can use our API, so that is already a first step in making a secure system. I hope you liked this video, so please share, like, comment and do anything to get notified for the next video. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.